I always ask people, what's the first CD or record that you bought with your own money?
Ooh, I th- I think it was probably a Reliant K album.
That sounds totally familiar to me, but I don't know much about Relient K. I know I've heard that.
They're like a pop punk band. They were
Cool.
like super like, late 90s punk on their first album, and they kind of like relaxed a little bit and kind of went a little bit slightly different direction.
Okay.
But yeah, it was either Two Lefts Don't Make a Right but Three Do, or what's the other one? Anatomy of the Tongue in Cheek. But they were like, yeah, very like punk kind of teen.
Awesome.
I know a lot of people would be like, that's not real punk music. And I'm like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend like introduce me to them. She was like super into like kind of that teenage punk music, like Avril Lavigne and Reliant K and stuff like that. And I started listening to it and I was like, oh yeah, this is really like fun stuff.
Yeah.
It was,
Got to start somewhere.
yeah, I think it was probably the first kind of music that I listened to that wasn't either like kid music or like just pop music, which is, I always feel kind of silly telling people I love pop music, but I love pop music. And I feel like you should just love what you love and not worry about what other people think about it.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot
Yeah.
of people who are like, I have such a refined, eclectic music taste. And I'm like, yeah, I like lots of different music.
Yeah.
But if I'm just going to turn on some jams and wash the dishes, like it's going to be really, really silly pop music. It's going to be Taylor Swift, or it's going to be, like at that time, when I was a kid, it was like the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. Those were like my go-to.
I was that guy. I was like too cool for school and was like, oh yeah, pop's a dirty word, whatever. And then as I got older and I kind of realized, Beatles are pop. Queen's
Yeah.
Stone Age is pop, in some ways, it's just essentially, it's just like the same, you know, chord progressions and melodic content, it just depends on how you package it up. And, I think I remember going, oh my God, I like a Britney Spears song. What happened to me?
Oh no, it's happening.
I mean, I was like, that's a cool song. Or, and I heard a Justin Timberlake song. I'm like, that's actually pretty dope. So now I've kind of come to the point where it's like, hey, man, if it's good, it's good. It was manufactured in, some producer's house in Sweden, like many of these songs are. Then, I guess my point is, I'm less bothered by the content and more, I would say, by the marketing element of it. Because like that was the one thing that kind of bugged me was like, I think when Black Eyed Peas came out with this My Hump song, I'm like, okay, I'm not a big fan of that. You're literally like trying to sell sex to 9-year-olds, and that's not cool. So that was the part that bugged me. But the fact that pop was accessible and all that, it is what it is. I just feel like it's changed a little bit in terms of the way that they try to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm bluffing with my muffin, and like I remember like 8-year-olds singing that to me, and I'm going, what?
I know.
What I don't like is anyway. Uh,
Sometimes I'm like, why do your parents let you listen to this?
yeah. Well,
Like,
that's when we teach these classes, and I mean, I know we've talked about this before, where it's like, hey, when you're facilitating songs to do with these kids, we have to try to walk that line of appropriateness, right?
yeah, I don't know how many times I've had the kids at Glide singing Old Town Road to me, and I'm like, we can't, nope, sorry, kids.
And honestly, that's one of the more tame ones.
It is. When I stole them, I'm like, hey.
Game moments, but generally, yeah.
I had a kid asking me, this was like a year ago. I think it was at Alvarez, and what was it? It was a Michael Jackson song, Billie Jean.
Mm-hmm.
He really loved Billie Jean, and I'm like, I can't play this for you.
What we often do is we just modify words.
Yeah, that's what I did. I ended up changing with them, which I'm sure like they didn't understand anyway, but like
Yeah.
Billie
Yeah.
Jean is not my mother.
He's not my buddy.